When my cousin Mina was 8 and I was 18, our Uncle Daniel came back. He arrived on a Thursday, not with a suitcase, but with a duffel bag smelling of cheap cigarettes and highway. The last we'd heard, he was in Nevada, maybe Arizona. The details of his 6-year absence were a blur of non-specific excuses our family had long since stopped trying to clarify. He looked smaller than I remembered. The once booming voice was a rasp, the confident swagger reduced to a nervous hunch. He stood on our grandmother's porch, where Mina and I lived after her mom passed, and mine took off for greener pastures. Nana, whose heart was a fortress with a perpetually unguarded side door, let him in. "They ran me off my feet out there," he said, flashing a smile that didn't reach his tired eyes. He patted Mina's head. "Look at you, all grown." Mina, shy, hid behind my legs. She had no real memory of him. He spun a tale of hard luck, a business partner who'd screwed him, a string of bad breaks. He needed a place to get back on his feet, just for a little while. He was family, blood. Nana, her own son long gone, saw a chance to fix something. "The couch pulls out," she said, her voice firm but her eyes soft. "That's how the fox got into the hen house." At first, he was harmless, a benign, slightly sad presence. He'd help with odd jobs, always promising to chip in for groceries next week. He'd talk to Mina, drawing her out with silly jokes, slowly earning a sliver of trust. I was wary, a low-grade hum of distrust in my veins. My memories of him were fuzzy but tinged with the aftermath of chaos, raised voices, slamming doors, my aunt's tears before she died. But Nana wanted to believe in redemption, and Mina, starved for any semblance of a father figure, began to bloom under the attention. The shift was subtle. He stopped looking for work. The duffel bag stayed unpacked in the living room, a permanent guest. He started talking about big ideas. One was a surefire online reselling business. All he needed, he said, was a little seed money, a social security number to establish business credit, just to get things rolling. He looked at Nana's tired face, her fixed income, and then his gaze landed on Mina, bright, trusting Mina. "Or," he said, as if struck by divine inspiration, "we could use Mina's. Kids have clean credit. It's perfect. We'll set it up, build it for her future. She'll be a teenage millionaire." He made it sound like a game, a secret adventure for just the two of them. Mina, 11 by then, was thrilled to be included. Nana, mathematically illiterate and overwhelmed by the jargon he spewed, deferred to his business sense. I was in my first year of community college, working nights, too buried in my own survival to see the trap being sprung in bathed daylight. I only found out when the collections calls started. Not for Nana, for Mina. "Is Mina Santos there? This is regarding a delinquent account, a credit card, a store financing plan for a high-end laptop that never arrived, a payday loan." I confronted him, the papers shaking in my hand. He was all wounded indignation. Identity theft is a terrible thing. Poor kid. Must be from that school database breach. He promised to look into it. The calls kept coming. The final piece fell into place when a processed food company sent a cease and desist letter to Mina Santos, DBA, Premier Snacks Distributors. He'd used her social to secure a vendor license, bought a pallet of expired energy bars with a line of credit, and vanished, leaving the debt and the legal threat in her name. I went nuclear. I showed Nana the letters, the credit report that looked like a war zone. The truth, cold and ugly, finally broke through her hope. She stood in the kitchen, her face crumbling, and pointed a trembling finger at her son. "You get out. You use my granddaughter? You make her a thief before she's even 12? Get out." He didn't beg. The pathetic act fell away like a shed skin. His eyes, flat and calculating, landed on me. "You always were a judgmental little bitch, just like your mother." He packed his duffel in 5 minutes and left, slamming the door so hard the frame cracked. The silence he left behind was poisoned. Mina cried for a week, not because he was gone, but because she felt stupid, used. The word fraud was now associated with her name. It took me 2 years of navigating bureaucratic hell, filing police reports, which went nowhere, and working double shifts to clear the debts to clear her credit. The experience forged us together, sister cousins in a trench, but it left a scar on her trust that never fully faded. We rebuilt. We fortified. Nana passed away, leaving us the small house and a lifetime of caution. I got my degree, a stable job. Mina, once a bubbly kid, became a fiercely private, brilliantly sharp teenager. She didn't let people in easily. We were a unit of 2, battle-scarred and standing. Then, 3 years to the week after we'd thrown him out, the email arrived. The subject line was stark. "Please read." The sender, Daniel Santos. My blood went cold. Mina was at her after-school coding club. I opened it, my heart a drum against my ribs. "Dear Elena, Mina. I know I don't have the right to write. I have no excuses for what I did. I was sick then. I'm sicker now. The doctors say it's pancreatic cancer, stage 4. They're giving me months, maybe less. The treatments, I can't afford them. I'm in a charity ward. I'm alone. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a little human kindness. I know I owe you nothing, but I am dying, and I am so scared. Please, if there is any mercy left in your hearts, your uncle, Daniel." Attached was a scanned document from a hospital in a city 400 miles away. It looked real, A diagnosis, a prognosis, the stark clinical language of an ending. I stared at the screen. The old familiar cocktail of rage and pity churned in my gut. The master manipulator was back, but this time his script was tragedy, not opportunity. He wasn't asking for Mina's social security number. He was asking for our souls, and he was using the one currency he thought we couldn't refuse. A claim on his grave. The email sat in my inbox like a live grenade. I didn't delete it. I didn't reply. For 3 days it pulsed there, coloring every interaction with Mina. I watched her laugh with a friend over a video on her phone, her face open in a way it rarely was since the fraud, and a cold dread would wrap around my heart. He wants back in. I showed the email to my best friend, Kara, a nurse with a built-in lie detector. She read it, her lips pressed into a thin line. The paperwork looks real, she admitted, but Elena, this is the same man who forged a vendor's license in an 11-year-old's name. Forging a hospital letterhead isn't a stretch. But what if it is real? The question was a whisper. What if he's actually dying, alone? And, Kara's voice was gentle but firm, he chose that. He burned every bridge, salted the earth, and ensouled the deed. His loneliness is a consequence, not an accident. We're not monsters. No, you're not, but he is. And monsters are most dangerous when they're cornered and desperate. This isn't a plea for family, it's a tactical extraction. He needs caregivers, funding, a soft place to land while he cashes in his dying card. You and Mina are the only assets he hasn't fully liquidated. Her words were a cold splash of reality, but the ghost of my Nana, with her too soft heart, whispered in my other ear, he's still blood. I couldn't tarry it alone. Mina was 15 now, not a child. She deserved to know the ghost was rattling its chains. I waited until after dinner, our quiet time. Mina, we need to talk. Something came up. Her guard, always at half-mast, went fully up. What is it? I handed her my laptop, the email open. She read it. I watched the color drain from her face, her knuckles whitening on the edge of the table. She read it twice. Then she pushed the laptop away as if it were contaminated. No. Mina? No, Elena. Her voice was low, vibrating with a fury I hadn't heard since we'd cleared the last of his debts. He doesn't get to do this. Not again. He says he's dying. Good. The word was a bullet. She flinched as she said it, but held my gaze. Let him. He made his choices. We're not his hospice team. But what if it's a lie? I asked, playing devil's advocate to her certainty. Then he's a liar trying to manipulate us. What if it's true? Then he's a dying liar trying to manipulate us. The outcome is the same. He wants something from us. Again. She stood up, pacing the small kitchen. He made me feel like garbage for being a kid who trusted her uncle. I spent years feeling like my name was a crime. He doesn't get to use cancer as a get-out-of-jail-free card. He doesn't get to make us feel guilty for protecting ourselves. Her clarity was breathtaking, and it shamed my own wavering. She was right. This wasn't about medicine or mercy. It was about power. He was testing the fences, looking for the weak post. We don't reply, I said, the decision solidifying as I spoke. We block the email. We change our numbers if we have to. Mina stopped pacing, her shoulders slumping. The anger bled out, leaving exhaustion. He knows where we live, Alina. The truth of it settled over us. The house Nana left us. He knew. He could show up. Let him try, I said, a new steel in my voice. He won't get past the door. But the universe, it seemed, was listening. 2 days later, a certified letter arrived. Same hospital letterhead, more formal, addressed to both of us. It reiterated the diagnosis, included a somber note from a Dr. R. Alvarez urging family support for palliative care outcomes, and provided a phone number for the hospital's social work department. It was a thicker, more official hook. He was escalating, making it real, making it harder to ignore. I called the number, not the social work line, but the main hospital switchboard. I asked for Dr. R. Alvarez in oncology. After being transferred twice, a weary-sounding woman answered. Dr. Alvarez's office. Hi, I'm calling regarding a patient, Daniel Santos. I received a letter. She cut me off with the efficient boredom of someone drowning in paperwork. Mr. Santos is not a patient of Dr. Alvarez. Dr. Alvarez is a gastroenterologist. You need the charity care office. Hold, please. I was transferred again. The charity care administrator confirmed Daniel Santos was in their system. He had been admitted 3 weeks prior with pain, diagnosed, and discharged with a palliative care plan. He had no listed next of kin. No one had visited. Is he terminal? I asked, my throat tight. I cannot disclose specific medical information, ma'am, but patients in his situation are often encouraged to reach out to family for psychosocial support. It was real. He was sick, maybe dying. The confirmation was a physical blow. I told Mina. She listened, her face a mask. So it's true. He's sick and he's alone. That's sad. She didn't sound sad. She sounded resolved. It doesn't change anything, Elena. His consequence isn't our responsibility. We didn't give him the cancer. We didn't make him a predator. That night I lay awake. Mina's teenage righteousness was a clean flame, but I was mired in the muddy waters of adult obligation. Could I let a man die alone? Even him? Was that who we were? My phone lit up. An unknown number. A text. Elena, it's Daniel. I got your number from the old house records. Please, I just want to talk. I can explain everything. I'm at St. Vincent's, room 412. I have no one. He'd crossed a line. He'd dug up our number. This wasn't a plea. It was an invasion. The pity evaporated, burned away by a fresh wave of violation. I showed Mina the text in the morning. She read it, then walked to the back door, opened it, and threw her orange juice into the yard with a violent jerk of her wrist. He doesn't want to talk. He wants to perform. He wants us in that room so he can do his dying act, lay the guilt on, and get us to sign something or promise something. He's not sorry. He's cornered. She turned, her eyes glistening. If we go, he wins. He gets his audience. If we send money, he wins. He gets resources. If we do nothing, he loses. For the first time, he faces a consequence he can't scam his way out of. Let him face it. I looked at my cousin, this fierce, wounded young woman who had learned about human darkness, not from a textbook, but from her own flesh and blood. She had drawn a boundary in steel. My job wasn't to second-guess her line. My job was to stand with her on the right side of that line. I picked up my phone. I didn't block the number. I typed a reply, my fingers steady and cold. Daniel, we received your correspondence. We are aware of your situation. The damage you did to Mina is irreversible. The trust you shattered cannot be rebuilt. You made your choices. We have made ours. Do not contact us again. Any further attempts via email, phone, or in person will be considered harassment and will be handled by law enforcement. This is the only reply you will get. Elena. I showed it to Mina. She read it, then gave a single sharp nod. It was a mercy in its own way. A clear, clean no. No explanations, no negotiations, no room for his drama. I hit send. The ghost had been addressed. Now we had to see if it would stay buried. Silence followed our reply. For 2 weeks, it held. The relief was a physical unclenching in our small house. Mina's shoulders lost their permanent hunch, and I slept through the night for the first time since the email arrived. We'd drawn the line. It was over. Then, the postcards started. They were nondescript, scenic views of places he'd supposedly been, the Grand Canyon, a California redwood forest, a generic beach sunset. The messages on the back were short, scrawled in a shaky hand that was either genuinely weak or a masterful performance. Thought of you today. The quiet here is heavy. D. Wish I could take it all back. Every bit. Uncle Dan. The pain is a constant teacher. Teaches regret. D.S. They were mailed from different towns along a plausible route between the hospital city and ours. He was letting us know he was mobile. He was thinking of us. He was suffering. It was a siege not of demands but of presence. A ghost leaving fingerprints. Mina would bring them in from the mailbox, her face pale, and drop them on the kitchen table like something toxic. He's not trying to get in, she said, her voice flat. He's trying to make us feel guilty for keeping him out. It's emotional graffiti. I agreed, but the cumulative effect was unnerving. It made the walls of our home feel thin. We changed our post office box, but the first card at the new box arrived within a week. He had resources, or he was spending his last energy on this campaign. The next escalation was social. A friend of Mina's from school, wide-eyed, approached her. Mina, is your uncle sick? My mom saw this post on the Community Care Facebook page. She showed Mina her phone. There it was, a post in a local Goodwill group shared from a hospital support forum. A photo of a man, gaunt and pale in a hospital bed, eyes closed. It was him, aged a decade in 3 years. The caption, posted by a profile named Dan's Journey, read, "Facing the hardest fight alone. Stage 4 cancer. Lost everything. Estranged from only family due to my past mistakes. Would give anything for a chance to make amends. To see my family before it's too late. Not asking for money, just prayers. And maybe if anyone knows Elena or Mina Santos, tell them I'm sorry. Tell them I love them." The comments were a river of tear emojis and outraged sympathy. How could they abandon him at a time like this? Family is everything. Shame on them. God forgives. Why can't they? Mina stared at the screen, her breath coming in short hits. He'd moved the battlefield to the court of public opinion. He was painting us as heartless villains, leveraging the sentimentality of strangers to pressure us. It was brilliant, and it was vile. "We have to say something," she whispered, her voice trembling with rage. "We have to tell them what he did." "And air our dirty laundry for the whole town?" I countered, though I shared her fury. "Get into a he said, they said with a dying man on the internet? We'll look worse. That's what he wants. Drama, engagement, to force us to acknowledge him." We reported the post as harassment. It was taken down, but screenshots circulated. The smear was now a stain on our quiet lives. I got a call from a woman at our church, a kind lady who'd helped with food after Nana died. "Elena, dear, I saw that terrible post. I'm so sorry you're going through this. But is there any truth? Is your uncle truly dying alone? Perhaps there's room for Christian mercy." The poison was working. He was isolating us, making us defend our boundaries to people who only saw a sad, sick man and 2 seemingly cold-hearted young women. The final straw was the voicemail. It came to the landline, the number listed in Nana's old name, which we kept for the security system. A voice, thready and weak, choked with tears. "Elena, Mina, it's me. I'm at the Riverside Motel, just off the highway, room 17. The pain. The pills aren't enough. I'm so scared. I don't want to die in this room by myself. Please, I'm not asking for anything else. Just don't let me die alone. I'm so sorry. For all of it. Please." A click, then sobbing, raw and ragged, until the message cut off. It was a performance worthy of an award. The specific location, the palpable fear, the explicit request not for money, but for basic human comfort. It was designed to bypass our logical defenses and spear the heart of our compassion. Mina played it, her face a stone. When it ended, she deleted it. "He's lying," she stated, but her certainty had a hairline fracture. The raw sound of the crying had gotten to her. It had gotten to me. What if he's not? The terrible question hung in the air. What if this is it, and he's truly there, dying in some flophouse? Could we live with that? "We lived with what he did to us," she shot back, but her eyes were glossy. "He's counting on this, Elena. He's playing the one card he thinks we can't fold against, the die alone card." We were trapped. Ignoring him made us monsters in the eyes of our community, and worse, planted a seed of doubt in our own souls. Responding gave him exactly what he wanted: contact, control, a foot back in the door. I made a decision, not for him, for us, to end the siege. We're not going to see him, but we will verify. We will call in a welfare check. If he's truly in crisis, professionals will handle it. It's the responsible, compassionate thing to do, for our own conscience, and it takes the narrative away from him. We're not cold, we're ensuring he gets appropriate care. From the state, not from us. Mina considered it, then nodded slowly. It was a compromise that protected our boundary while discharging the terrible societal and internal obligation. We were not the heartless family abandoning him. We were citizens alerting authorities to a vulnerable person. I called the non-emergency line for the county where the Riverside Motel was. I was calm, factual. I received a concerning voicemail from my uncle Daniel Santos. He stated he is terminally ill and alone at the Riverside Motel, room 17, and in distress. We are estranged and cannot intervene personally, but we are concerned for his welfare. Could you send someone to do a check? The dispatcher took the details. An hour later, an officer called me back. His tone was neutral, professional. "Ma'am, we conducted a welfare check at that location. The occupant of room 17 is a Mr. Daniel Santos. He was found to be in no immediate medical distress. He had a supply of prescribed medication. He stated he is undergoing treatment and has social worker support. He seemed surprised by our visit." Surprised, not scared, not dying, surprised that his guilt trip had been rerouted to the police. Did he seem ill?" I asked, my voice small. "He was pale and thin, ma'am, but ambulatory and coherent. We found no cause for emergency intervention." I thanked him and hung up. Mina was watching me. "Well, he's fine. Well, not fine, but not dying on the floor. He has meds, he has support. The crying, it was for us." The confirmation should have been a relief. Instead, it felt like a deeper violation. The performance, the postcards, the Facebook martyrdom, it was all a calculated production. The cancer might be real, but the crisis was manufactured. He was using his diagnosis as a prop, a final brutal tool of manipulation. The siege hadn't broken our walls, but it had shown us his full arsenal. He wasn't just a thief anymore. He was a director, a playwright, and he was casting us as the villains in his final tragic act. We had called his bluff with the welfare check, but a cornered, desperate man with nothing left to lose is at his most unpredictable. The performance was over. What came next wouldn't be a plea, it would be a move, and we had to be ready. The welfare check was a turning point. It severed the last, tenuous thread of what if. He wasn't dying alone in a motel room. He was staging a scene, and we'd sent the wrong actors. The silence that followed was different this time, tense, expectant, like the pause between a lightning strike and the thunder. It broke with a visitor. I was weeding the stubborn patch of garden by the front steps when a rental car pulled up. A woman in her late 40s, dressed in sensible, expensive-looking jeans and a blazer, got out. She had a folder under her arm and the weary but determined expression of someone who handles other people's messes for a living. "Elena Santos?" she asked, her voice polite but not warm. "Yes." "My name is Laura Whitaker. I'm a patient advocate with the Hospice Alliance. May I speak with you for a few minutes?" My stomach dropped. Hospice. He'd upped the ante from hospital charity care to end-of-life care. "Regarding?" "Your uncle, Daniel Santos. He's been admitted to our care program. Part of our protocol involves family liaison, especially in cases of estrangement." She offered a tight, professional smile. "He's listed you and your cousin as next of kin." "He has no right to list us," I said, my voice colder than I intended. "We are estranged, permanently." "I understand there's history," she said, not unkindly. "My role isn't to judge or mediate. It's to ensure Mr. Santos's care plan is followed, and that any legal or practical familial obligations are communicated." She opened the folder. His prognosis is short, weeks, not months. He's refusing certain palliative measures, citing emotional distress. His stated wish is for family reconciliation, or at least presence, before he passes. She was a weapon, a polished professional delivery system for his guilt. I felt a surge of rage so pure it whitened my vision. He was using hospice workers as his flying monkeys. I'm sorry he's sick, I forced my voice level, but our position is unchanged. We are not his family, not in any meaningful sense. He forfeited that. Miss Whitaker nodded, as if she'd heard this before. She handed me a business card and a sheet of paper. This is my contact information, and this is a copy of his advanced directive. You are named as the secondary medical power of attorney after a social worker at the hospital. I stared at the document. My name, typed in an official-looking form. It was a fraudulent, it had to be, but it looked terrifyingly real. This is fraudulent. I never agreed to this. He provided it as part of his intake. Our legal team would need to see a formal revocation from you. Until then, technically, if he becomes incapacitated, you could be consulted on care decisions. She let that hang in the air. The implication was clear. He was engineering a scenario where we would be forced to engage, to make decisions, to be responsible. He's manipulating your entire system, I said, my composure cracking. Perhaps, she conceded, her professional mask slipping for a second to reveal a flicker of what might have been empathy or shared frustration. It happens more than you'd think, but the paperwork is what it is. I'm required to make contact. I have. She closed her folder. My advice, see a lawyer. Get a cease and desist regarding the medical POA. And prepare yourselves. Patients in his condition often become more persistent. The motel call, the social media, it may escalate. She got back in her car and drove away. I stood on the steps, the business card and the advanced directive feeling like live coals in my hand. He wasn't just playing on sentiment anymore. He was using legal-ish frameworks to entangle us. He was building a cage of obligation paper by paper. I showed it all to Mina. She read the directive, her face grim. He's trying to make us legally complicit, so we can't just ignore him. We have to actively fight him off. It's diabolical. We found a lawyer, paying a retainer that stung our meager savings. Ms. Geller was a no-nonsense woman who specialized in elder law and family dysfunction. She examined the documents. The POA is almost certainly invalid. You never signed it. But to be safe, we'll file a notarized affidavit revoking any and all authority and disclaiming any fiduciary responsibility. We'll send it to the hospice, the hospital, and put it on record with the county. It feels like we're preparing for war, Mina said quietly. We are, Miss Geller replied, a bureaucratic one. He's trying to force a connection. Your only move is to formally, legally, and repeatedly sever it. Every time he tries to tie a knot, you cut the rope. We did the paperwork. We sent the letters. It felt defensive, draining. The escalation came not to us, but through us. A week later, I got a call from Mina's school counselor. Elena, we have Mina in the office. She's very upset. A man came to the front gate during lunch asking for her. He said he was her dying uncle and he just wanted to see her face one more time. Security turned him away, but there was a scene. He was crying. Some of the other students saw. My blood turned to ice. He'd gone to her school. He'd violated that sanctuary. When I picked her up, she was trembling, not with fear, but with a volcanic silent fury. He wanted an audience, she spat. He wanted my friends to see, to pressure me, to make me the bitch who rejected her dying uncle at the school gate. That was the line, the final unforgivable line. The manipulation was one thing. Invading her school, weaponizing her peers' perception, that was an act of psychological warfare. It was time to go on the offensive, not with emotion, but with fact. Mina, I said that evening, we need to tell our story. Not on Facebook, not for sympathy, but to take away his power. He's controlling the narrative. We need to own it. She was hesitant. Our private pain is already public. He's made it a spectator sport. Right now, he's the tragic figure. We need to be the prosecutors. We didn't post anything. Instead, I contacted the hospice advocate, Laura Whitaker. I requested a conference call with her and the hospice's head of social work. With Ms. Geller, our lawyer, silently listening in on the line, I laid it out, calmly, clearly, without hysterics. I described the fraud against an 11-year-old. I read the collection agency letters we'd kept. I described the postcards, the faked motel crisis, the social media smear campaign. And then I told them about the school. He is using your hospice program and his terminal diagnosis not to find peace, but to continue a lifelong pattern of exploitation and abuse against his victims, who happen to be his only living relatives. His goal is not reconciliation, it is control. And by facilitating his attempts to force contact, even with good intentions, you are being weaponized against us. The silence on the other end was profound. Then the head of social work spoke, her voice stiff with shock and dawning horror. We were not aware of this history. The patient presented a narrative of simple estrangement, of regret. His regret, Mina's voice cut in, clear and cold over the speakerphone, is that he got caught and ran out of money. Now he's sick, and he's found a new way to get what he wants. Please, do not help him hurt us anymore. The call ended with profuse, if belated, apologies from the hospice. They assured us Daniel would be removed from any outreach program that involved family liaison, and his listed next of kin would be officially scrubbed. They would handle his care, but they would no longer be his conduit to us. It was a victory, but a hollow one. We had to lay our trauma bare for strangers just to get them to stop helping him harass us. The unmasking was complete. The kind, dying uncle was gone, revealed to the professionals in his life as the manipulator he was. We had scorched the earth between us and any system he might use. We had won the bureaucratic battle, but we both knew, with a chilling certainty, that Daniel didn't end games he was losing. He simply changed the rules, and now he had nothing left to lose. The hospice stopped calling. The postcards ceased. The digital footprint of Dan's journey vanished. The silence that settled was absolute, and for the first time, it felt like victory. We had weathered the siege, exposed his tactics, and legally walled him out of our lives. Mina finished her junior year of high school strong, the shadow of the school gate incident fading among her peers who were more preoccupied with summer plans and college apps. We painted the living room a bright, defiant yellow. We were moving on. Then, on a humid Tuesday in July, a plain white envelope arrived. No return address, but the postmark was local. Inside was a single key on a cheap circular key fob and a folded piece of lined notebook paper. The handwriting was the same shaky scrawl from the postcards, but stripped of all performance. It was stark, almost clinical. Elena, Mina. The hospice discharged me, non-compliant with psychosocial support. I'm in apartment 4B, 227 Cedar Street. The rent is paid through the end of the month. After that, I don't know. The key is for a storage locker, Unit 114A1 storage on Route 9. The code is 102285. Your mother's birthday, Elena. Inside the locker is a box. In it are the only things I ever had that were worth anything. Things that belong to your family. Things I stole. Pictures of your mother, Elena, from before she left. Nana's recipe box. The pearl necklace she wore on her wedding day that I pawned and then scraped together money to buy back a year later, too ashamed to return it. The deed to the house, which I tried to borrow against once. Nana stopped me. There are also the notebooks I kept when Mina was little, before I left the first time. I thought they were worthless. Now I think they might be the only true thing I ever did. I am not asking for forgiveness. I am not asking for a visit. I am giving you back what is yours. The lawyer says the cancer has spread to my brain. The pain is spectacular, but the clarity is worse. I see the ledger now. The math is ugly. Take the box. Consider it the first and only honest repayment of a debt I can never fully settle. Daniel. Mina read it over my shoulder. She said, "It's a trick," but her voice lacked its old conviction. The specificity disarmed her. Our mother's birthday, Nana's pearls, which we'd assumed were lost years ago. Maybe, I said, but the key is real. The storage place is real. We debated for 2 days. The fear was a living thing, a setup, a final ambush. But the pull of those lost fragments of our history was stronger. We drove to the storage facility, a bleak row of orange doors under a blazing sun. We didn't speak. The code worked. The door rattled up. Inside was not a trap. There was no dying man, no drama, just a single medium-sized cardboard box sitting alone in the center of the empty concrete space. It smelled of dust and damp. We carried it to the car and drove home in silence. We placed it on the kitchen table, our battlefield now an archaeological site. We opened it together. On top lay Nana's recipe box, the wood smooth from generations of hands. Beneath it were in a faded velvet pouch, the pearls, cool to the touch. There were folded documents, the house deed with a sticky note on it that read, "Paid in full by Lillian Santos, 2016. And a bundle of photographs, edges curling, of my young, smiling mother, pictures I'd never seen. She looked happy. At the very bottom were 3 black composition notebooks. Mina opened one. It was filled with a younger, steadier version of Daniel's handwriting, not financial notes, but mundane, aching observations. October 12. Mina took 3 steps today. Claire would have cried. I bought her those stupid squeaky shoes she loves. Her laugh is the best sound in this shitty world. November 3rd. Electricity got shut off. Sold my watch to get it back on. Told Lillian it was a billing error. Mina can't sleep in the cold. January 15th. The urge to run is a drumbeat in my skull, but I look at her sleeping and I think, just one more day. Be a man for one more day. The entries went on, chronicling a struggling, flawed, but present man, the ghost of the uncle Mina might have had. They ended abruptly 6 years ago, around the time he vanished. The final entry read, "The drumbeat won. I'm poison. Better to be an absence than a calamity. God forgive me." Mina turned the pages slowly, tears dripping onto the paper, smudging the cheap ink. She wasn't crying for the man he became, but for the shadow of the man he might have been, and for the little girl who'd lost even that. "It's not an excuse," she whispered, wiping her face. "No," I agreed. "It's a confession." The box contained no plea, no request. It was unpacking. He was returning the stolen artifacts of our family and admitting in the most concrete way he could the stealth that could never be returned. Their time, her trust, our peace. We never went to 227 Cedar Street. We didn't need to. The local paper's obituary section 2 weeks later carried a brief notice. Daniel Arthur Santos, 48. No surviving family listed. Services private. A charity was named for donations in lieu of flowers. It was a quiet, lonely end. We didn't attend any service. We held our own. We made Nana's recipe for lemon pound cake, the one in the box. Mina put on the pearls, which looked both ancient and new against her skin. We looked at the pictures of my mother, and I told Mina stories I hadn't remembered in years. The ledger, as he said, was ugly. The debt was vast. But in that final, stark act of return, he had made a single, calculable payment. He gave us back our history. He gave Mina proof that the monster who used her, once, however briefly and imperfectly, saw a little girl worth staying for. It didn't absolve him, it complicated him, and in that complication we found a strange, bitter kind of closure. He was right, it was the first and only honest repayment. It didn't erase the years of fear, the ruined credit, the violated trust, but it drew a definitive, undeniable line under the account. The transaction was complete, the box was empty. We were left with what was always ours, a house, a history, and each other. Mina keeps one of the notebooks on her bookshelf between her coding manuals and college prep guides. She doesn't read it, but it's there, a relic, a warning, and a testament that even the most corrupted ledger might, in its final line, contain a glimmer of terrible, unwanted truth. We had chosen safety over blood, and in the end, the blood itself had conceded, leaving only the echo of its own failure and a box of quiet, undeniable proof.